Have you ever gone to a networking event in the hope that you're going to find new clients for your business, only to find yourself completely overwhelmed, feeling anxious, and going home feeling deflated and scared? I've been there, and a lot of us have been there, but I've got some good news for you. I have found some strategies that are very simple to help me when I go to networking events, which has completely transformed the experience from being something scary and overwhelming to something really enjoyable, and very importantly, something that has helped me to grow my business. So let me share those with you today. Okay, so networking for your business is something that's very crucial because it means that you're putting yourself out there. It's helping other people to know about who you are, what you do, and it just helps you to get some exposure. So even with internet marketing, digital marketing, growth of social media, and a lot of us being online, there's still very much a place for in real life networking events. And luckily, after the pandemic, these have really come back. I live in London, and there are millions of networking events in this city every single day. But wherever you live, you are bound to find a networking event, even in very small towns. Someone is bound to put one on. If not, then there's always the possibility of traveling to networking events in bigger places. So we know the importance of networking events, but for a lot of us, it can be really scary. Even as an extrovert, I used to find going to networking events really overwhelming because when you're a beginner in something, for example, in business, it can feel very difficult to go out there and sell yourself, which is essentially what you feel you have to do in networking events. It brings up insecurities, imposter syndrome. It can just feel very overwhelming. And all of that pressure to go somewhere and get clients, it can just feel too much. And I have to confess that there were times when I didn't even go to networking events that I was planning on going to because of pure fear. So luckily, through lots of trial and error, I have found 3 simple ways to make going to networking events a lot more fun. So I'd like to discuss those with you today to help you out. The first tip is something that I learned from one of my friends who runs a private aesthetics practice, and she's been networking for about 10 years. She told me that when she goes to networking events, she doesn't think of going to those with the aim of getting clients, but she goes to networking events with the aim of getting allies. And I found that really soothing and reassuring. So what she means by this is, when you're in business, a lot of the time you're working by yourself, especially when you're starting out. And there's a lot of people in that same situation. So when we all go to networking events, if we think about going to them with the objective of finding allies, i.e. other people who are also in business, then firstly, it takes away that pressure of having to find clients when you go and having to sell yourself. You're not in any way selling yourself, you're simply sharing who you are and what you do with other business owners. And that can be really nice because firstly, it takes away the sort of loneliness that can come from business. It makes you potentially get some new friends, and those people will then know what you do. And so when they are out there doing other networking events or they're talking to clients, then they know that they can potentially refer them to you. So then you're getting allies and you're doing the same for them. So with my friend, for example, who works in aesthetics, I could be having a coaching client that is obviously requiring help with something to do with coaching, but they may mention to me that their sister needs skincare, let's say. And so I can say to them, actually, I know someone in person that I think I can recommend to you. And so it just means that you're building all these different relationships, and it's a slow process, but you're planting all these seeds that can help you to really establish yourself and get people to know who you are. So then if someone goes to one of these business owners for a different reason and they mention that they have a problem with their business or their life, potentially then that person can refer them to you as a life coach, let's say. So the number 1 tip, go to networking events with the objective of finding allies and being an ally to others. That will take away the pressure and the fear of going to networking events. Tip number 2, go to networking events thinking about quality versus quantity. So nothing wrong with going around and speaking to lots of different people, that's absolutely fine. But you really do not need to do this in order to make the most out of the networking events. Even if you just talk to one person, but you make a real connection, you connect on LinkedIn, you meet up for a coffee a week after, and you become good friends, that's just as valuable, if not more, than talking to lots of different people, but not really creating a connection, a deep connection with any of them. Why is this? Well, when it comes to business, and I did talk about this in the first point, business is all about relationships. It's about people knowing who you are and what you do, and you getting yourself out there and letting people know that you are a business and that you have something to offer. It also means having lots of people in your corner to help you when you're feeling fearful and doubtful, and just knowing that you're not alone in the process. So building relationships is really crucial, and it does take some time, but it is far more valuable to you and to your business to be able to build 1 or 2 good connections every time you go to a networking event, rather than trying to get 20 different business cards where you actually never really had a chance to get to know that person or for them to get to know you. So next time you go to a networking event, aim to speak to one person that you connect with really well, and ask them questions. Get to know them on a deeper level than you would on just kind of superficial small talk, and see where that takes you. A lot of gurus say that you should go to networking events and only allow yourself to speak to each person for 3 minutes and then move on. That's fine if you want to do that, but I absolutely hate that advice, because I think that feels very superficial. It feels sharky, so it just feels slimy to me. It feels like you're going there it's a very selfish way, I think, of doing things. It feels desperate, and I personally don't think that it produces very good results. Plus, it creates so much pressure on you to go out there and be talking to all these different people. If you move on after 3 minutes, how is that person going to feel if they're just getting started on getting to know you? It just doesn't feel very nice. You can try it and see what it feels like, but trust me, I have tried, not to that degree, because I cannot cut off an interesting conversation at all. But now I don't put that pressure on myself. I'd like to get to know 1 or 2 people, and it's just far better. And over time it compounds, and you make a really nice group of connections, and it genuinely helps you to grow your business. Okay, so that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is to go with a friend. So once you've gone to some of these events and you've created some real connections, follow those up with a coffee, follow those up with a meal. Just be in touch with those people and actually build that connection. Potentially turn them into friends. It can be another business owner that's also, struggling with some of sort of similar issues as you. Well, it'd be really good for both of you to stay in touch, to be accountability buddies, to help each other out. The next step from that is to get one of those people, once you feel comfortable with them, and say to them, hey, there's this networking event happening next week in London Bridge. Why don't we check it out? Going with a friend, again, just makes it so much nicer, because it almost feels like you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're going to a networking event, but you're also catching up with your friend. It feels less scary because you're going with someone you know. And the other thing you can do is to help each other out. So when you're having a conversation with someone new in that networking event and they mention that they need, again, skincare, to use an example, I can literally say to them, oh, my friend here who is talking to that person over there, she's an aesthetics practitioner. I've known her since university for the last 20 years, if it's someone that you know like I do, or I've known her for the last few months. We've connected over a couple of networking events and gone for coffee. I've learned a lot about her business. I think you should check her out. Then that's a really nice way of getting kind of a direct referral, and they can do the same for you. So you've got an extra person that's helping you out and getting other people to potentially know who you are. So that's another tip that you can try out. And I said there's 3 tips, but I'll give you a bonus tip, which you may find helpful. And this is a sort of a next step up. But I did try this in a couple of events that I went to, and it really sort of 10x'd the amount of the results I got from going to a networking event, and especially getting clients. So if you go to a networking event as an attendee, that's great. You can get a lot of value from that, from everything that I've just explained. Fantastic. If you're feeling brave, if you want to practice this next step, then potentially what you can do is to contact the organizer. Start maybe with a small networking event. Contact the organizer and ask them if you can help to run the event, or ask them if you can potentially do something additional to help them out, but in return for you to be able to get a little bit of exposure on you and your business. So I'll explain it with an example. I have a friend that works in kind of the corporate world here in London, and she runs networking events for empowered women, and she was running a speed mentoring event. And so I asked her whether I could volunteer to be one of the mentors for the event. And it just meant a little bit more work on my part. Instead of just attending the event, obviously I was providing some mentoring, but it gave me great exposure because all of the mentors we were all put on stage for a couple of minutes each, just to introduce ourselves, who we were, and for people to know who they'd be working with during that event. So it was brilliant because instead of me talking to individuals, I was able to sort of stand on a platform and get everyone on the networking event to know who I was. And that on its own created interest from people. So a lot of people came to speak to me afterwards because they were like, oh, this person, she is a doctor and now she's working as a coach and she overcame these struggles and that's really interesting. Okay, great, let's go and speak to her. So you don't even have to do something like volunteering yourself to do to do mentoring like I did. You could even just say, I'm really interested in your networking event. Could I help you by potentially helping you organize it before and after, or just having a kind of group coaching afterwards, or whatever it is that you do. See if you can volunteer to do maybe a small 5-minute presentation on what you do, or help her organize the event before and afterwards in exchange for them introducing who you are, or even just say, no, this person helped me out in organizing the event. She runs a coaching business. These are her details if you'd like to check her out. Something as simple as that. So it's a win-win situation. You're helping the person that's organizing the networking event, and they're helping you because you're getting a little bit of exposure. So if 30 people go to that event, all those 30 people will know about you. Whereas if you go to a networking event and you're not exposed in that way, then of course you're going to have to work a little bit harder by talking to people individually. So that's an interesting one to try out. I have tried it a couple more times in other scenarios, and it's very effective in getting people to know who you are, and so people come to you, and it generally does create enough interest that some coaching clients have come out of those networking events. So I hope that you have found the 3 tips plus the bonus tip helpful. I really would like to know how you get on. Go and try them out, and please leave some comments down below. I'd love to read them and see how you got on with this. I wish you all the best. Networking doesn't have to be as scary and intimidating as we find it. Just find a different way to approach it, and you'll see that it can become something really enjoyable that you will look forward to, and that will help you grow your business and make some really interesting and lovely friends. Take care. Lovely to speak to you today, and I look forward to seeing you next one. Bye bye.